I'm assuming you're gonna drive it.
Yeah, sure. All right, so it's recording now.
Okay.
Um, I'm Eugene. This is George. So bear with us. It's our first time doing it. Well, not doing it, but making this podcast thing.
Right.
Um, so if you've seen the live, we try to do it live on Facebook. Clearly, between the two of us, we're over 70 years old, so I don't think, it actually worked. But anywho, so we wanted to both of us, and we got some other friends too that are in here, are very opinionated on things that go on in this world and everything that's happening. But what you find is kind of the loudest voices are the ones that are, I would say, just don't make any sense. And so what we would like to do is add a little perspective, just kind of like your real world view of things. Neither one of us are, I would say, like political pundits. So we kind of have a different opinion on things or a different view on things, but keep it real as well. And so, just looking at different things going on in the world, and just kind of what are our thoughts on it. And hopefully eventually we can get this platform to where it's a little bit more interactive, um, and actually figure out how to go live and do it that way, because we'd like to be able to kind of feel other people's opinions. I know from my Facebook, at least, my friends and family, they're very interactive on different posts that I make. So definitely like to hear what everybody else thinks and kind of engage in some very healthy debate and conversation. The good thing is, George and I see somewhat eye to eye on some things. I think he's a lot more liberal than I am, but I guess we'll see how that plays out here. Um, so we did have some things to talk about today. I forgot what they were now.
I
So
got it. It's the bailout. We're gonna talk about the economy reopening, and then I guess we'll make our predictions or maybe our hopeful VP choices now that we know the presumptive Democratic candidate. And I would say if we were to both, um, choose a party that we affiliate most with, I guess you would say the Democratic Party would be that one. And now, what part? Now that there's this more progressive wing opposed to the more centrist wing, that's going to be the question.
mm,
And that may be where we separate in some things. I think for the most part, as everyone's kind of listening to this, we'll probably agree on a fair amount of things. But I think the way that we view things sometimes are different, and that's kind of where it all comes through. And that's what I'm hoping uh, this podcast or this Zoom cast or whatever it is will do. Hopefully, we're saying something that's different for you, the listener, that can be, uh, I guess, more relatable to you and your situation. So we
yeah.
can go from there.
Well, we can just start there with VP picks then.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
yeah. So as you all know, Biden kind of put us in a pickle, and not in a pickle in a bad way. I mean, it's good to have a woman candidate. I'm all down for equality. I don't like the idea of saying, you know what, I'm automatically going to pick a woman, because things happen. We've got coronavirus, in our Cardi B voice that kind of has Governor Cuomo, looking a lot more presidential, and really kind of stepping up to the game, and kind of would love to see what he would do in that seat. But nonetheless, Biden said he's picking a woman, and even though he's not beholden to it and he can change his mind, I think it would be democratic and political suicide for him not to pick a woman. Um, so you'll see a lot of the pundits now say Kamala Harris. I don't like her at all. I get it. She's a black woman. I'm not feeling her whatsoever. She's locked up enough Negroes that we don't need her in place to try to do that some more. So, um, but I'll leave it at that. You got anything to add for that, George?
So I will go ahead and admit I am a Bernie supporter, and it was a little disheartening when he decided to kind of bow out of the race. I too am on the train that I hope it is not Kamala Harris, and it's not for anything other than her track record with locking up minorities. Even though I'm under the impression that Kamala is probably the person that Joe wants to help solidify that minority vote, and I just don't know that that's necessarily going to happen.
I mean, she didn't get supported in the primaries. She was like one of the first ones to drop out.
I agree. I don't know if she carried a percent in any of the places or any of the polls that she had, much less if she made it to a primary. I can't remember if she dropped out before that time or not, before the primary started.
Yeah, because I think she
But
dropped out in like January or December, somewhere around there.
right,
So before Iowa.
right. I think if I was to have a hopeful that Joe would choose, I would say Stacey Abrams would be my top choice. Uh, she's a female. She's a black female. Just a super smart woman. We're both from Georgia, so we saw her race against Governor Kemp that was here, and she outperformed, in my opinion, better than I was expecting for her to be in a red state.
Yeah.
Georgia's not purple, so we have a couple purple counties. Some of our larger counties are purple, but overall, Georgia's a red state. She is a super bright candidate. I think she's just progressive enough to push and maybe even kind of pull Joe to that side on some things, hopefully. And she's just intelligent. She has I don't know of her record being negative in any form or fashion. And I think that's going to be the big thing when it comes down to the actual race between Trump and Biden. Is we know it's going to be dirty. He's gonna point out all the mistakes, all the dirt that he can dig up. He can, and so not to say that there's ever a perfect candidate, but one that can at least stand on their own too. And I think Stacey can do that. What do you think?
So I don't know. I like Stacey, and we talked about her. I really do like her as a candidate. My only drawbacks is her questionable sexuality, and I bring that up not because it bothers me, but I think that it's something to be said, because I don't think she's out if she is, and she doesn't talk about her personal relationships at all, so she could be straight as an arrow or not. I think that's one of those things that if she needs to kind of get ahead of it now and don't let it kind of just seep out like, oh, Stacey Abrams has a secret lover, some chick over here like that. Not to say that would be detrimental, but I mean, it's at the end of the day, we're still in a very. I mean, look what they did to Pete, Mayor Pete. They nicknamed Pete Butt Plug and different things like that. Like it's just as a country, we haven't progressed far enough to not include someone's sexuality as a part of their character or person, and we demonize them for such. And so I think she's a great person. I would love to see her on the ticket. The only thing that I would really I wouldn't say hold against her, but I would struggle with her is, can she pull white women, suburban white women? And that would be the only drawback. And so the only other person that could do that, which she endorsed on the day, is Elizabeth Warren. She's got Joe's already got the black vote. I mean, that showed clearly in the primaries. I mean, for some odd reason, Negroes decided that they, that he was their man. Bernie has been literally fighting in the trenches since he was, I wouldn't even say a young man, because he even looked old back then. But he has been fighting, marching side by side, Selma this, ML King that. Like, he's been there, like, for real. And for some odd reason, black people's like, nah, Obama picked Biden back in '08, so we're gonna roll with him. And they didn't care anything he had to say, anything he had to do. So I think at least he has the older population of black vote. I think Stacey would bring in the younger vote, black, but I don't know if that'd be enough, because at the end of the day, I think voting wise, suburban white women kind of hold the keys to a lot of things. And if you don't get their kind of buy-in, then you're going to struggle a lot. And I think Elizabeth has that. So if we want to look at electability and winnability, I think he'll need to pick with. I think he can win with either or. It'll be a stronger shot with Elizabeth. But with that being said, Trump, he's gonna call names and he's gonna do what he does, and Pocahontas this, Pocahontas that. So I would be interested to see what name he picks for Stacey, because he's gonna have to tread real lightly. I mean, I get it. He's got that dog whistle call for a lot of his racism and everything else that he says and does, but he got to tread lightly, because the Republican Party is as backwards as they are. I think they won't allow him to pick on different caricatures of her and see what that, for him to go that far. So I don't know. I'm tossed up. I could go either way. It's just long as it's not Kamala. I can't rock with you, boo. I'm not feeling it. I'd rather have Hillary back. That probably says a lot, but
I don't know if I go that far.
I don't know, man. I think she wouldn't be as bad. But there were some rumors that Michelle, that he was like seriously talking to Michelle about it. But I don't.
You're saying?
Huh?
Michelle Obama, you mean?
Yeah, like that she would be. Now Michelle, that would be it. Michelle would be the bee's knees. But the other rumors are is that Obama would be up for Supreme Court, and so I don't know if they would be able to do both. I think that'd be look a little funny to do that. But Obama would make a great Supreme Court justice to take over for Mrs. Ginsburg. So, which, mind y'all please, we need to vote, because she can't hold on much longer. That's
the most important thing.
She's in a bubble now because we got to protect her from COVID. So we need somebody to get in there, a liberal to get in there and kind of hold our ground, because the last 2 seats were stolen from us. So, well, not 2 seats, but the last seat, the first seat was stolen. But anywho, so if you had to bet money, who would you say it would be?
Oh, if I had to bet money?
Yeah.
Probably Kamala.
Really?
Unfortunately. I don't know. With Joe, I feel like, and this was one of my reasonings for not being a staunch Joe Biden supporter was, Joe's in the time of his life where I feel like everyone's making decisions for him.
I can see that.
Just a little bit of his flair. And so, do they risk, catching a more progressive VP candidate? I don't know. Elizabeth Warren, I think, I want to go ahead and qualify this. I think would be an excellent candidate as well. My question for her, or my 2 concerns with hers is, her seat in the Senate is important, so I need her to have votes there. I also would see her maybe even doing more and better work in the cabinet if it came down to it. But it's undeniable that when she comes to debate someone, she's going to be ultra prepared, and she's going to attempt to murder someone like she did Bloomberg. So, I think I would have been okay with Bernie or an Elizabeth Warren being in front of the ticket. Uh, and that just kind of, I guess that kind of tells the viewing audience, how progressive I have become or am. But I feel like he's going to probably find someone that's a centrist. I think you're
You think
spot
he's
on with
enough?
the white women, white middle-aged suburban women are a key point.
Yeah.
But I also feel as though there's a lot of people that are on the progressive side that they have kind of thrown their hands up, and that's where I feel Stacey would pull more of the common person, where Elizabeth will pull more of the intellectual.
Yeah.
And that's how she pulled when she was coming, when she was in the primaries and things like that. She was getting the college educated, progressive wing, where Bernie was getting the everyday blue collar guy. Uh, that was going to pull. I don't know that Elizabeth Warren has much of the crossover power or appeal to people. So I don't know if she's going to relate, or if people will relate to her that are blue collar, because she is such a polished and overwhelming at times figure. Where I feel like Stacey's a little bit more down to earth. Now I'm not saying that she would pull any Republicans either.
Yeah.
But once again, that's why I'm probably still pushing for her, because I think she will relate more to the everyday man than not. But I think there is a say again.
That Stacey relates more to the everyday.
I would think so.
Okay.
I mean,
I see that.
She's not the career politician. She's not I'm assuming she's not, a millionaire of sorts. She does not already have Pocahontas. And once again, Trump is going to have to figure out what he's going to say to discredit her, and he's going to have to do it in a thoughtful way, because I believe if he goes about it the wrong way, that Trump supporter who's on the fence, whose only support is, hey, my 401k is okay, which it's not today. Or the stock market's okay, or it's easy to predict. If they have any sort of social, backing or thought process, they're going to say, what, we should go maybe another way if he's getting out of hand. That's kind of how I look at it.
And she debates, like, she's probably one of the best debaters I've ever seen.
Which one?
Stacey. Like,
yep.
she has, even when Kemp would try to go personal with her, like, I've never seen anyone deflect like her and get right back on message. This isn't about X, Y, Z, but I can tell you it is. We need to get people, like, she was just so on point. So what do you think about the idea then of maybe leaving Elizabeth in the Senate to take over for Senate Majority Leader if they win, and then maybe picking up Ms. Klobuchar, who actually didn't even do well in the primary? That was really bad.
Yeah.
She would do a little bit better. I think she's like 6th or 7th place, like behind Mayor Pete and like a bunch of other folks. Like, that was weird. But
I think the one primary that she got maybe like 5% or 6% of the vote is because she had that little spat with Pete, and so I don't know that she has much pull outside of that. I think Amy's also. First off, I think all of the women that were on the stage are very bright women, and they Amy just reminds me of stale white toast. She is just dry. I believe in her. I'd make a sandwich, but it's just like, if I didn't have her and there was some wheat bread in there also, okay, I'm gonna do that also. And that's basically kind of my take on her. I don't know much about her, it sounds like she has a pretty impressive record with winning in red districts.
Yeah.
But are we talking about red districts that were already kind of leaning purple? I don't know.
Or they were blue and they got flipped with Trump, or I don't know what's her story.
Right.
But I mean, but could she make a viable VP candidate? Like, would that make sense?
I would think
Poor white women.
a Klobuchar Pence debate would be the most boring spectacle.
I would say almost anyone debating him, because that man has zero personality. And I don't know, would he even debate her without his wife on stage? Because clearly he don't do nothing with any other woman that ain't with his wife not around. So
I do not. I mean, is it possible? Sure. Um, is it likely? I wouldn't think so. I don't know. You know, once again, I think Joe he does have the black vote, but how do you keep it? You find someone to kind of appeal to them, and then I mean, the Joe Biden has the old black vote. Let's qualify that again. So, and maybe not even old. I would say boomers for sure, maybe some Gen Xers, things like that. So how do you get the rest of the black vote to really circle around you? You put a younger black candidate that can speak more to that or more to them.
What about
who?
Oprah?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know that. I don't know that Oprah would want to play second fiddle to Joe Biden.
I mean, I don't
I
know.
mean, if you're a billionaire, would you want to sit behind him? Really?
No. Because I mean, do you now we have to consider? I mean, we've talked about this. Does Joe Biden have 4 years in him too? I mean, I think it goes without saying. Joe, I mean, from seeing him in 2008 when he was debating Palin to then he was debating who did he debate in 12? It was Ryan. Like Joe had some fire in him, and Joe don't have that fire no more. He's got some decline in him. The question is, how quick is that decline, and what does that mean for the next 4 years? So, can he pick up somebody that? I guess the question is, who's that VP that could be presidential?
Right.
I don't know. I like Abrams, and I think she'd be great on the ticket, and I think she would pull in white women, young black people. But do I see her as presidential? I don't know. It's difficult to see that. I see Warren. I think she could be a president. I could see her as being president. So I don't know, but she's just as old too. But
well, the first thing we're gonna have to define is what is presidential, because we've had 3.5 years of.
I think this doesn't count. This is like we get a redo. This is like when you're playing video games with your little brother and you don't plug in their controller. Like this is where we.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think I'm assuming your outlook on that is because it's never been done, and there's an aspect of our thought process of what would have come first.
Yeah.
I saw a debate. I can't remember who the two guys were. It wasn't even a debate. It was just discussion where they were like, did you ever think you would see a black president in your lifetime? I know, even as a high schooler, I was like, I'll never see a black president in my lifetime. And then when, President Obama came around, it was like, oh, wow, this can really happen. And so, I guess this is kind of where we differ a smidge. I think Stacey would be just fine. I think she would get herself up to speed. Once again, her intelligence, this, that, and the other would speak volumes. Absolutely with Elizabeth Warren as well. but I guess it's probably for my own selfish wants. I would love to know that the next president that would, God forbid, Joe not be able to, uphold his duties would be
Yeah.
someone who I know is going to drive a more progressive message, for the future. And I don't think Stacey is so far left that, um, it's out of range. She is a little bit more centered than Elizabeth Warren. And then once again, love Elizabeth Warren. Think the world of her. Um, but she is a bulldog, and whether or not she would get the buy-in and have that crossover appeal in office would be an even bigger question for me than whether or not she was president.
Yeah. But can you see? Would you be able to see Abrams running a standalone presidential campaign?
I think
Without being tested.
she would have to win. She would have to win something.
Yeah.
She'd have to get away from, um, kind of from Georgia. I guess she was a state senator at one point in time, but she would have to win something along the road to kind of build that credibility. That's kind of how I see it. Look at it. So I don't know if that's a Senate seat or a House seat. I don't know.
I think she's waiting.
But, I think tomorrow she probably. I don't know that I would say, hey, yeah, she'd be the right person, but I think she would be prepared for that next step if it came calling.
If they can. So I'd say 51-49 Abrams just slightly for me. If I had to pick if I had to pick who he would choose, I'd be like a 60-40 Warren over Abrams. But I think he would pick. I think he's seriously courting her, and I just pray that his advisors are like, just don't even throw in Kamala. Like, I know she's being touted as like that next, but no, please, not her, not her at all. So, okay,
We'll see. We'll see soon enough. That's how. I mean, yeah, we'll see.
Well, so next, got them Trump checks today.
Yep.
So a lot of folks should have got them today. So there's some much controversy on whether it's a prepayment or it's a loan or you got to pay it back. Is it taxable? There's a lot of information going around. You sent out a video earlier that the guy read straight from the text, and it was like, this is what it says. But then CNBC points out an article that says, no, it's not. You don't have to pay it back. So who knows? I mean,
I would say for whoever is listening, use your check lightly, invest it if you can.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that I don't even consider it a stimulus bill anymore until someone of authority comes on public record to say, hey, these are checks that are meant to keep you whole and will not be and there's no intention for you to pay it back, then I am using the text as is. The word tax advance is clearly written under in that same section of the amount of money that you're going to receive, the $1,200 per individual, $24 for a household, and then $500 per child. My wife is furloughed, so we are using it to keep her and all of our bills whole. And so, but there will be a portion of that money that I will sit to the side. I'll either put it in a CD or I'll invest it in some form or fashion with the intention of knowing I'm probably going to have to give it back. I pray that it's not something that will put you in a negative position come 2020 tax year. But just be mindful of it. If you read the actual bill and the actual CARES Act, it says what it says. And I mean, I don't want anyone to think, oh yeah, we're getting this money to to keep us whole, and it actually just puts you in a hole later on.
Yeah.
So
Defers your financial burdens. So with
right,
that being said, then, so before we get into the actual corporate side of this, I mean, should the government have put strings on it? Should they have said, so you and I and a lot of people are in a different financial situation to where, all right, maybe we can afford not to have this money, but you know, so either we're going to invest it or put it in a savings account, but that it doesn't stimulate anything, doing it that way. Instead
right,
of, well, so they said, hey, you have to spend it at your local restaurant, or you got to do this, or maybe they put it, I don't know how they would have enforced that, but
right.
had some strings attached that you had to spend local to stimulate the economy.
So this is where my progressiveness will come in. Um, the corporations have been bailed out, and they have used the money to buy back their stocks.
Yeah.
So I will, me personally, I will use that to now take their heavily discounted stocks to hopefully make a couple extra dollars. So, now what I would say is this, and if had I been a legislator or whatnot, I would most definitely made the individual portion of the CARES Act and the business portion of the CARES Act two separate things so that it wasn't all clustered and cluttered. Because it feels like what they ended up with was just a bunch of over leveraged terms, one for one side and one for the other.
Yeah.
And I probably would have modeled it closer to what Canada's kind of stimulus package was,
Are they giving
where
every
most
resident $2,000 a month, or did you have to like apply for like unemployment?
so I believe theirs is 2,000 a month, but it's for those who are unemployed,
Okay.
and so that would include furloughed people.
Yeah.
To your point, I have the great fortune, and you have the great fortune of working in a segment that is considered essential. So I'm still receiving the check that I once had, previous. So fortunately, I'm in a good place, and I think the money should have gone, or even more money should have gone to those who are furloughed, those people who are in service industries, your bartenders, your waiters and waitresses, where there's not a set amount of money that they typically expect. But at the same time, you're asking these people to go home, use up more of their utilities, use up more of their things internally. So make sure that they're whole, whether it's rent, mortgage, utilities, things like that.
Yeah.
I think if there was anything to go that should come back to people like you and I would have preferred it be something along those lines, mortgages, utilities, things like that, where it's not even don't send me a check, just make that portion of Georgia Power or natural gas all whole, so they don't send out bills to people, because with in my household, everything is going to go up based on everyone being home, trying to uh, do our part in flattening the curve on this virus. And so that's where I personally think it should, the way that it should have went, and then how I plan on using my little bit of. What about you?
Versus, I struggle because like I said, we got the money, and definitely not trying to flex in any way. But it's like you said, it could have definitely been used by other folks in some different avenues, a lot better. So I think they could have rolled it out a little bit different. Like you said, either pay my light bill, my gas bill, water, or these different utilities. But now you start to question, okay, well, does this, because what it does is by them using your 2018 taxes, if you haven't filed your new ones yet, because I haven't filed mine. This is the first time ever in life I've not made the deadline, but I figured they're gonna give me some extra time, so I'm gonna wait. I owe them money this year anyway, so. But
Thank you,
I mean, you're penalizing now, which, I mean, do you blame them, those people in the service industry who don't claim their taxes or their tips? So if you didn't claim any income in 2018, but you were a waitress at, I don't know, one of the Papados, and you were pulling in 50, 60 grand a year, but you didn't claim anything because you didn't want to pay taxes, but now you don't get this money, like that sucks. But you didn't do the right thing either. I don't know. I never worked in the service industry, so I don't know what that looks like. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I think they could have, instead of rushing it through, and I mean, I get it. They had to do their due diligence to make sure Trump didn't get a blank check either. But I think they, like you said, they could have put some more thought behind how do we accurately throw this out there and make it, one, have the most impact on people's lives, but two, how do you truly stimulate the economy? And make sure that people go out there, use the money, pay their bills if they need to, but also go out there and spend it as well. I mean, I was on a phone call this afternoon with our Walmart execs. And so the first checks went out Friday. The first wave of checks that went out Friday. So Walmart's seen a 100% year-over-year comps in video games and TVs. So people took their checks and went out there and bought, Modern Warfare or Call of Duty 12 or whatever they're on now. And Walmart, and my company, so I can't say nothing bad to them. They went through a 32-inch Spectre TV on sale for like $90 or something like that. And so now those are flying off the shelves. And so, people, so you question, like, if you can go out there and buy video games and televisions, I mean, did you need it? Did you need that stimulus money because you can't pay your bills? Or is it just people being ignorant and saying, well, I got this money, I'm gonna go buy me something nice now, and still not paying their bills?
Right. I mean, something is always, regardless of whatever happens, someone's going to find a way to do wrong, quote unquote, with it.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. We know we are all going to have anecdotal, situations and whatnot that we're going to be able to say, hey, someone went out and bought some shoes with this money. Someone went out and bought some hats and jerseys and, new rims or some shit like that. And, it is what it is. Unfortunately, it'll be the bullets for some people's guns later on when they're talking about stimulus checks and how, it wasn't worth it, and how we went in, into all this extra debt and things along those lines. But my focus would be on those people who truly needed it and used it the right way. People in the service industry, if they didn't file in 2018, they had the opportunity to kind of rush through a filing this year so they could get the money as well.
I didn't know. So I guess so. Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, as long as you filed, and the other side that that we didn't talk about was those people in our elderly community that's on Social Security. They make enough money, just enough money where they don't have to file taxes. And so, I feel for those people as well who already have fixed incomes, and they're going to have to now kind of do the same thing that these service industry folks do, hurry up and file some taxes so they can get some of this stimulus money as well. And for even at that point, what would they use it for?
Yeah.
I'm assuming someone who's on Social Security is probably going to use it to stockpile their refrigerators and cupboards and pantries and things like that. That's
Yeah.
my assumption. Um, I don't like once again. I don't know that this is a stimulus check. I
Yeah.
don't. I think it's a check that's going to um, make the government feel like they did something for someone at some point in time, and it's going to uh, help people feel good at night on some aspects. But at the same time, for those people who have it and are using it using it for the right things, I think it was necessary. And so, I hope I believe that there's many more people in that aspect than not. I would have, I would have preferred the stimulus checks be, uh, referred to something else and maybe used as an incentive for people to stay home. Hey, we're giving you this money so
Yeah.
that you can keep up with your bills because we're going to ask you to stay home so we can fight this virus.
Yeah.
Not to, hey, once you get done, now you can go out and buy up the bar for a night.
What you want to do?
Uh, yeah, and go and flex and this, that, and the other. I hope that it's also, fuel for some people to go out and get checking accounts and everything along those lines. Because I know the people that are receiving paper checks.
Be a
When are
while.
you going to get? When are you going to get?
Your boy wanted to have his signature on them. So
Right.
they finally
Well,
just approved that.
and the thing of, you mentioned the blank checks earlier for Trump. I mean, he still got his blank check. It's just now they have to tell us where they're going to send the money. That was one of the pieces of the puzzle. And so, I know there's some conservative friends that I have that I always hear, oh, Democrats delayed this and delayed that. Well, understand that that the first iteration of the bill basically gave Trump and Mnuchin $2 trillion to give to whoever they felt like it
Yeah.
was, they felt needed it.
Yeah.
So that could be Trump Towers, or that could be, or Trump Incorporated, or that could be Delta or American, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And there was a portion of that same first iteration where it was at their discretion with no, oversight. And so one of the delays that kept it, in the Senate for a bit was, hey, you need to tell us who you're sending this money to, so we know that it's not just your cronies or people that you like, or your donors, things along those lines, so they can be held accountable. So.
Yeah, absolutely would have done. So to put it in perspective, so people who don't like numbers, so $2 trillion. So today, Amazon is now worth $1.1 trillion. So essentially, two full Amazons worth of money is what you would have gave a man who has gone bankrupt 11 times to go do what he wants to do with. Like, that's a ton of money. So with that being said, so we'll segue into the corporate side of things. So I think I read today that they struck a deal for like $31 billion to go to the airlines for a bailout. And there'll be a lot of different organizations that'll apply for bailouts. A lot of different, Boeing is one of them, airlines. And, I don't think the cruise industry, from what I read, don't qualify now because their flags fly in other countries. So this is only for American kind of born countries or companies, if you will. And so the question is, why do we bail out certain industries or organizations? As Americans, we're asked to have an emergency fund and be able to support ourselves for 3, 6, 9 months, whatever. If things go bad, why don't these organizations have to do the same thing? And so I think, so just to kind of play back, so we bailed out the auto industry in 2008 with Obama coming into office, with the recession that Bush created, with the housing market boom. We bailed out the banks and all of them. And we say we do that, and I don't necessarily have a problem with bailouts. I think they need to have hella strings attached to them. The reason why we bail these organizations out or these companies out is because of the downstream effect that they have. So in 2008, the auto industry, now you've got steel manufacturers, you got glass manufacturers, you got vinyl manufacturers, you got all of these downstream parts and players of the car manufacturer that if you don't bail them out, then you lose 10 times as many jobs along with that. So along with these airlines, one, they should be stockpiling jet fuel because it's at its all-time low. One of the things that made Southwest very successful when it first started out was that they bought oil futures, which allowed them to lock in lower jet fuel prices for like the next 10 years. I think it expired a couple years ago, but so they were able to keep their prices low and then gain their market share that way. But like I said, airlines need to be doing everything they need to do to make sure that one, they're taking care of their customers and make sure their customers are safe. Because at the end of the day, this is how this virus got from Wuhan, China, to Seattle, California, to New York, to Georgia, wherever we are now. Because passengers are being transported and we probably won't take the best precautions. But when we bail these companies out now, there needs to be so many strings that they really second guess taking the money. Right now it's kind of like, when you throw my hands up, I'll take it. But, you shouldn't be able to do buybacks. So if anybody doesn't know, what they do is companies will go, in order to raise their stock price or their value, they'll go and buy their own stocks back, in a sense. And so what that does is it shrinks the market of what's available to sell. And so when you shrink the market, so you shrink supply, you increase demand, which increases the stock price. And so that's what these companies will end up doing if you didn't put these strings in place to keep them from doing it. So, but if you put that in there, you put, hella taxes on it or interest payments on it, different regulatory things on it, then they'll start thinking twice. Well, maybe we can get by for another couple months, on what we got without having to take this money. But I don't think it's right now. It's easier to do that. It's easier to just raise your hand and take the money and go for it. You've got Boeing, who was struggling beforehand. Now they're going, oh, well, we're part of this too. But really, no. You were killing people in your little messed up plane you had. That's what really happened. But then but I do feel what I struggle with not having, especially when it comes to like the tourism industry. So for the cruise ships, I mean, that's a huge industry in the U.S. A lot of American dollars are spent for that. They employ a lot of Americans, so I get it. They flagged it. They sell their ships overseas or fly their flags from overseas because they're trying to be tax shelters, and so maybe they'll rethink how they do these things. But at the end of the day, what I fear is if cruises, if Carnival and Norwegian, if they don't start sailing again, that they don't have the capital, the revenue to keep them afloat, so to speak. And so now they're going to start opening their cruises and they're going to be discounted, and you're going to have thousands of people on a ship right next to each other doing the same thing. We're going to open it back up way too soon, and you're going to end up having another cruise ship like the Princess Anne or the Princess in California that just, everybody on there got coronavirus, so I don't know. What do you think?
I guess this is kind of where the bit of libertarianism for me when it comes to major corporations kind of comes into place. My Republican brothers and sisters will say, "Hey, you need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps." Well, why do we not expect the same thing when it comes to major corporations? You expect the everyday man to have 2 or 3 months worth of income, have 2 or 3 months worth of mortgage payments, rent payments, things like that saved up. Why are we not expecting the same thing from our corporations? Are bailouts necessary? I believe they are, to a point. the fact of the matter is, yeah, are you going to bail out Boeing, who was going to go down anyways? I don't think they were going to go down anyways, but are you going to save a company that may have failed otherwise? Had no coronavirus ever came around. Now, understand that when the first iteration of the CARE Act, there were two sections for the individual. There was a section for people who made a certain amount, and then there was a section for those people who didn't make so much, where you got a lower payment. And you can thank, progressives like Bernie Sanders, who for fighting for at least everyone receiving the same paycheck. Because I think at one portion, if you made below a certain amount in the original version, I think you only got maybe $600. Don't hold me to that, but it was less than the 12 for sure. But going back to the corporations, I struggle with giving them bailouts that they can then turn around and be called grants, just for regular people like you and I to then struggle to afford to get on. Delta, yeah, okay, we're going to give you all this money, but then the everyday layman, who essentially you're affecting, also can't even enjoy a ride, or can't take a ride on your uh, airline or on your plane. So I would most definitely, I'm most definitely with you with strings. I think they should all be considered loans. They should all come with interest. And you know what? And I would be okay with it being there being enough interest that would pay off what we're having to pay the normal everyday American who lost their job or was furloughed, so on and so forth, because we've already done the bailout one time on the backs of Americans. And here it is, just a different situation, a different time. I understand this is unprecedented. This is something that no one probably would have foreseen, that it would have gotten to this point. But if you're making billions and trillions of dollars, it shouldn't be all based on all of your money should not be back into the markets, or based solely in innovations. There's got to be something that there's got to be a lever, whether it's, hey, maybe your CEO doesn't need to make tens of millions, or potentially $1 billion in a particular year cycle, because we need to make sure that if something goes wrong like this, or another pandemic, or maybe another lever that causes a recession, that we at least have some accountability internally, upon ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's going to be very tough for me to see, Delta, United, American, all these guys get a bailout, and then I'm going to go back on a plane and a can of Coke is going to cost me $5.
Mm-hmm. $150 to check your bag.
Right. And I think, you mentioned the cruise lines. If you're not based in America, even though you trade on in the U.S. stock markets, things like that, and you are getting your kind of having your cake and eating it too when it comes to taxes, then you don't deserve a bailout. Yeah. Sorry, that's just what it is. Maybe that will encourage you to come back, but then at the same time, we don't know what those other individual governments are doing for the cruise lines as well, because maybe, I'm assuming that they're giving them something, they're paying taxes in some form or fashion. Maybe it's just not as much as what the U.S. would be requiring.
Well, Panama has like 100 million companies registered there, so I don't know if they they're like bailing everybody out.
You would think. I would hope Panama is getting their fair share, for each one of those companies. I don't know. That's for the Panamanian government to deal with. And once again, if you want to benefit from being an American company or benefit from those benefits that are set up from America, then hey, bring bring your operations here. You got people that need work here. We have people that need jobs, regardless of whatever everyone says about the unemployment rate. There's still someone who needs to work.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Panama, I was reading somewhere that the bigger ships pay like $250,000 to use their canal. And it's like a waiting list to sign up for a time slot to get through there. So they got some money somewhere. So maybe they will do something. I think a lot of it, well, taxes is one. The other part is just the labor part of it. I mean, you've been on cruises, like they take little poor kids from anywhere to sit there and fold ducks into towels and do all of that stuff, and work people 90 hours a week and pay them for 30. So
well, I would also say this, and I think it's something that we don't understand. We see these big corporations and we feel like they can't die.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I would not be able. I mean, I would want to challenge that thought. I would love for us to really take a step back and challenge that thought. God forbid a Delta dies, right? Yeah. But if Delta does die because they're so far in debt before all these things happen, they're making all these unnecessary investments or so on and so forth, things like this. And once again, completely hypothetical for all the Delta workers, because I do live in Georgia, and so I am a huge Delta supporter. But it's in my mindset that if Delta dies, someone else has to step up, whether it's United, whether it's American. I'm sure many of you would be very surprised to hear Spirit has probably the lowest debt ratio of just about all of them. Really? Maybe a Spirit, Alaskan Air, someone's going to step up and fill, and is going to have to fill the void. And so that's where, once again, that libertarian bit of me says, hey, you weren't prepared for 3 months out like you expect your employees to be prepared 3 months out. Why are we bailing you out?
I mean, and the reality is, like you said, they wouldn't be. I mean, Delta has 270 something planes. They've got a couple hubs around the country. Like they've got infrastructure to where, if they were to go, like someone's like, it would be very unlikely they would go. They may cut back a lot, but someone's going to pick up the pieces. And I think the same with. When you look at these different industries, like the hotel industry, airlines, cruise line, they have these things called assets that people would want. Right. So you've got Carnival, I think, has like 100 cruise ships or something like that, something crazy amount. So these are billion-dollar platforms that they have that won't just sit there idle. Someone's going to pick them up. So where they'll be. Carnival by itself, so maybe you'll have Norwegian will pick up 30 of them, or maybe Princess will pick up, another, or what's the Richard Branson? I don't even know what he does. He just has this.
He's got the whole Virgin brand. Yeah.
So he'll pick. He's already got one cruise ship or two, so maybe he'll pick up. So there'll be, like you said, people will pick up these things, so they won't necessarily die. And like you said, I think when you're looking at bailouts, you're looking at the industry as a whole opposed to singular companies. Because if you go back to the auto bailout, if you were looking at just GM dying versus, Ford or all the rest of the American-made ones, then maybe Chrysler, Dodge, then maybe it's like, all right, well, I mean, Ford is trading at like $4 a share now, so they're damn near dead anyway. I don't know who drives a Ford, but
there's a lot of people who drive Fords.
Someone always told me that Ford stood for like found on the road dead. Like that's just what they I've never owned a Ford, but I don't know, maybe. But yeah, so I like I said, I think you're looking at whole industries opposed to individual corporations. So airline, they it won't die. And I think they may be pulling the trigger too soon to bail out individual ones that are struggling, because the market is going to be there. So will it be the same, in 6 months? No. I don't plan on, unless I just absolutely have to, flying anywhere anytime soon. But I can damn sure believe it, since I had to stay my ass at home in 2020, that I'm gonna make up for it in 2021, 2022, and so forth. Especially if they come out with a vaccine, then my ass is everywhere.
Just go ahead and buy now. That's
Either
so. And before we jump off of this particular subject, this is a note. This is a message for all my Black brothers and sisters who are not in the stock market, especially young ones. Yeah. This is the time to invest. Yeah. This is the time to invest in things that you know about. You know Delta, you know United, you know American, you know all of these different travel organizations. Yeah, right now is probably not the apex of the time to buy, but it is still enough time to buy now. Yeah. That if you can hold, and I'm talking about money that you can let sit for maybe a year or so, yeah. You will make money off these guys. And I will tell you this, I mean, they've been making money off of you, so it should go both ways. Mm-hmm. So and this also, that's also a note for any of my white brothers and sisters, Hispanics, Asians, so on and so forth. This is a public service announcement when it really comes down to it. But I know there's a lot of friends of mine that, I would love to, get into stock markets. Well, this is the time to do it. If you have the liquid funds and you have, first stop, and let me also take another step back. Take care of your bills and debts first. Yeah. But this should be money that if you just have, in my household, we call it mattress money. This is the time where your mattress money comes out and you go and put it something that's going to multiply. And housing market also is a little, there are mortgage companies and funds and things like that are also in the stock market that are currently down because people aren't buying right now also. So and that once that comes back, or once we find a vaccine and all these other things, that's what's going to come back in droves, because then people will get back to work. And the real estate market in general has been just, bounces back much quicker than other industries.
Doing it is. And to George's point, I mean, this is, generally people look at the stock market and they get very, kind of bogged down on different who to buy, when to buy, what does all this mean? Right now, you can get name brand stuff. I mean, I picked up some Carnival stock the other day at $10. It dropped to $7, went back up to 17. These are name brand folks that, like we just talked about, that aren't going to go away necessarily. So even if Carnival doesn't exist in a year and a half from now, when they negotiate buyouts, it's generally for a stock price. That's how you buy a company. So you don't say, I just give you $1 billion and give me a company. They say, I'll give you $8 a share or $20 a share for everything outstanding. And that's how you buy a public company. So generally it'll be, I don't know what's it, like 70% is, I don't know what's the going rate for, I guess it just depends on what you value yourself at.
Right.
But it'll be for whatever, above whatever the asking price is of your current stock price. So, looking at Delta now, I mean, you can get it there was one time Delta was down to like $18. I got a little too greedy and tried to buy it at 15, but it never dropped that low. Unfortunately, I don't know what it's, let's see where it's at now, because they announced a bailout for them today. So I'm assuming Delta is probably looking a lot better.
I'm sure it's going to come up now. So the time to buy is today, because it's probably only going to go up.
Yeah. So point. Delta right now is at 24.35.
Oh, that's still
a 52-week low of let's see, of 19.10. So even if you got it at $19 a share, you would have already made, $5 already per share. So yeah, like George said, this is a time buy some name brand stuff. In industries that are kind of depressed right now. Not Amazon. Amazon at its all-time highest ever in life.
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos made almost $4 billion yesterday. Um, that's just what
Right.
it is. But yeah, so be smart. Use different apps to kind of get your appetite wet. And to be honest, I learned a lot that I learned about stock markets on YouTube. So watch videos, have people explain it, let them tell you what a limit buy is, or a sell, or a stop limit, or whatever those different terms, and know what they mean and how to use them to your advantage. So with
Most
that, I don't know how much time we got left on this thing. So maybe we just save the what's the name for the next cast.
Okay. The reopening for next cast.
Reopening, and that'll
I
give us
mean,
stuff to
no,
talk
yeah,
about then.
I got a couple things to say about that, but you know, no, I think that's fine. We can sign off, and I mean, if this goes out and enough people, are interested in the next one, hopefully you are, because we like to have little chats like this. I mean, this has basically just been an organic conversation. Whenever we're together, we're always talking about it. This is probably the first time where we haven't had a bash Trump session. we kind of stuck.
I think when we talk about the reopening, that's gonna happen.
Right, right. But if there's topics that you want us to comment on and talk about, then just let us know. Whether if you know us personally or if you don't know us at all and you just want just a separate point of view on different things. We'd like to expand this. I promise I will get a better camera because I don't like the way this looks and it feels like I'm in a first 48 camera shot. It's so
And
great.
I will have on clothes next time.
Right.
It's very informal, but I will wear a shirt next time. So,
but I want everyone to well, first off, thanks for everyone that is going to look at this. I'm assuming we're going to put this on some form that's going to give a like button.
yeah.
Like it if you do. If you don't like it, that's fine. Don't put a thumbs down, but also show all your other people so they don't like it too, so we can get more views. How about that?
Yeah. And the beauty about this is, like I said in the beginning, like neither one of us are experts in any of this stuff. So this is, I can't speak for George, but for me, I read articles all day long, and just at things that interest me. So what you'll find is if there's a topic or a subject that comes up that I don't know anything about, I won't say anything, because what you're not going to have me do is look stupid and say something that I don't know what I'm talking about. I've got friends that try to engage me in certain debates. If I don't know anything about it, I'll go read about it real quick or try to figure out something. But if I don't know, then it's just what it is, So, but like I said, hope everyone enjoyed it. If you got something to say, leave it in the comments, and we'll use it as a topic of discussion. And next week we'll talk about the reopening and whatever else we figure out that makes sense at the time. So, appreciate it. Thanks for listening. Go from there.
Peace.